We're on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just moments before the great war of the Mahabharata is about to begin. And right there, in the middle of it all, is Arjuna, a legendary warrior, one of the best. But instead of feeling that warrior's fire, he's frozen. He's in the grip of a profound internal crisis, and we're about to dissect the anatomy of his despair, verse by verse.
You can just feel the raw emotion in these words. This isn't some battle-hardened hero making a plan. No, this is a man at his absolute breaking point. It's this moment of collapse that sets the stage for one of the most incredible spiritual conversations ever recorded. So how did he get to this point? What does this complete breakdown actually look and feel like? Let's find out.
You know, the interesting thing is that his crisis doesn't start with a philosophical doubt or a complex idea. It begins with his body. It's an overwhelming, uncontrollable physical rebellion. His own body is the first to just scream that something is terribly, terribly wrong. So let's listen to the original Sanskrit from chapter 1, Shloka 29. Vepatushcha shariri me romaharshascha jayate. Gandivam shramsate hastat twak chaiva paridayate. You know, even if you don't understand the words, you can almost feel the tremor and the heat in the poetry itself.
The scale of this physical reaction is just shocking. This isn't just a case of battlefield nerves. His entire body is trembling. His hair is standing on end, and his legendary bow, the Gandiva, which is practically an extension of his own arm, is slipping right out of his hand. He can't even hold his weapon. And to top it all off, he says his skin feels like it's on fire. This is a complete system meltdown.
Now, here's a really crucial point. Someone might hear about these intense symptoms, the trembling, the hair standing on end, and think, oh, maybe this is some kind of spiritual ecstasy. But the text is very, very clear. This is not that. The diagnosis is pure, unfiltered material fear. It's a fear for his own life and the lives of the people he loves, a fear that's rooted completely in a material understanding of who he is. And you can see the progression so clearly. After the body breaks down, the mind is next to go. All that physical chaos just gives way to this devastating mental confusion. The next shloka shows us exactly how this downward spiral continues. And Shloka 30, his plea to Krishna becomes even more desperate. Listen to this. Nacha shaknomi avastatum brahmateiva chamana. Nimitani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. You can just hear the confusion, the spiraling loss of control in his voice. He says he literally cannot stand there a moment longer. He feels like he is forgetting himself, like he's losing his very identity. His mind is reeling, just spinning and spinning out of control. And his entire perception of the world has just narrowed into this dark tunnel. Everywhere he looks, all he sees are bad omens, only misfortune. There is no light, no hope, only darkness.
So, what's causing this mental collapse? What's the trigger? The source points its finger at one thing: bewildering attachment. His intense attachment to his relatives, to his role as a warrior, to what will happen after the war, that is the direct cause of his fear, his loss of balance. He's so tangled up in these worldly relationships that he's completely forgotten what's in his own true self-interest.
And this brings us to the climax of his breakdown. The physical agony and the mental chaos all just collapse into one single devastating question. What is the point of any of this? This isn't just a panic attack anymore. It's a total crisis of purpose.
In Shloka 31, he lets out this final cry of despair to Krishna. Nacha shreya anupashami hata swajanam ahave. Nakangshe vijayam Krishna, nacha rajam sukhani cha. This is the sound of complete and utter resignation.
I mean, just think about that. It's such a powerful statement. He says he can't see any good coming from this fight, and then he rejects the very things he's been fighting for his entire life. He doesn't want the victory, he doesn't want the kingdom, he doesn't want the happiness that's supposed to come with it. The entire goal of his life struggle has just evaporated. It's all meaningless to him now.
So the diagnosis for this ultimate despair is what the text calls a blind conception of life. He's become so identified with these temporary bodily relationships, being a cousin, a nephew, a student, that he's completely lost sight of his real, eternal self-interest. And in that forgetfulness, all he can possibly find is suffering.
Okay, so we've seen the symptoms, right? A body in rebellion, a mind that's reeling, and a sense of purpose that's completely shattered. Now let's put it all together and get to the root diagnosis of Arjuna's condition.
This is the big question, isn't it?
From Arjuna's point of view, the cause is the war itself. He thinks that fighting his family is the problem, and that running away is the only solution. But is that the real issue here?
Look at this comparison. It's fascinating. On the left, you have Arjuna's view. His duty feels like a terrible sin, and he thinks the only way to be happy is to abandon it. But on the right, you have the Gita's much deeper diagnosis. The real problem isn't the fight. The real problem is that Arjuna is blinded by a material way of looking at life, and he's forgotten that his true self-interest is spiritual.
So here it is, the root of the problem, boiled down to 3 key points. The cause of all this pain is excessive attachment, forgetting our spiritual self-interest, and a blind conception of life that's based only on these temporary bodies and our relationships to them. This isn't just a diagnosis for Arjuna, this is the diagnosis for the universal human condition of suffering.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. A question that, right now, Arjuna is completely helpless to answer on his own. He is trapped. To him, victory looks like pain, and the only purpose he can see is in running away. So, what do you do? How do you possibly find the strength to act, to do your duty, when your entire being is screaming at you to stop, when every possible outcome looks like it will only lead to more misery? That is the question that sets the stage for the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita.